Hello and welcome. If you are looking at doing home maintenance on your 700 series Singer, there are a few things to consider, and some of them are just that, there's slight discrepancies between the different models, and we'll go through that. But just for a start here, the 726 manual basically says to, depending on how often you use your machine, depends how often you maintain it. And the general guideline that they're sort of assuming is that you'll use your machine 2 to 3 times a week, and in which case do a wee clean and an oil every week or so, I think. So it's suggesting to give it a basic clean and oil every week or so. But if you're using the machine continuously, clean and oil it daily. Or if you keep it in a very warm or damp place, oil and lubricate it more frequently than the guidelines suggested. So, it's sort of open to, depends how often you use the machine. A lot of people ask me, how often should I service the machine? And that's, pretty much a reasonable answer there, that it depends. So you basically follow the guidelines in your manual. Modern machines don't need as much in the way of lubrication. Yeah, so they're just talking about cleaning here. So the tension discs, clean the tension discs here. So I would raise the presser foot and get a little brush and clean in there. Maybe a little bit of compressed air. If you don't have compressed air, you could use one of those little blow cans. You can buy compressed air cans. That might be sufficient to blow that. But you really just want to make sure that's clean inside there. And the guides and the take-up lever, presser bar and needle bar areas, keep those clean around there. And then it suggests removing the bobbin case and oiling the bobbin case here. There's a couple of oil points here. We'll get to the machine and have a look at those in a second. And it says after cleaning, apply a drop, but no more than a drop, of Singer oil. Only use Singer oil, of course. But any sewing machine oil is fine, no problem. Then sew a line of stitching on a scrap piece of material to remove the excess oil, and then the manual goes through removing the bobbin case, replacing it. We'll go through that on the actual machine. And every few months here it's suggesting cleaning oil behind the faceplate. They also suggest that taking the top lid off is quite a good idea. And you can actually remove this faceplate very easily once the lid's off. Oil, removing or replacing the top cover here, so there's a little oil point here. And then we've got a bunch of oil points and lubricant points here. So the lubricant is basically just a grease, and then it shows you how to remove the bed, etc. And underneath, so this is the flatbed model, and this is the free arm model, the 726, which I've got. And then it goes through things like removing and replacing the bulb, replacing the slide plate, so that's the sliding plate here. Shows you how to do that. So if we take a look at the actual machine here, you would remove the flatbed attachment there. So they suggest cleaning, just with the supplied brush or a similar brush. This is quite a stiff bristle, so they're suggesting sort of just clean in here, keep the eye of the take-up lever, I'm assuming that's what they mean, just by keeping that clean. So they suggest cleaning in between the tension discs here. I would lift the presser foot when doing this, and you may have noticed in the model rundown video that the 726 has a different tensioner setup than the 760 and the other models that I've shown. The tensioner on those is up in this area here. So just another thing to note with the differences. So raise your presser foot, get your cleaning brush in there, give that a good clean. See if you can get the brush right in there so that the bristles go right in between the discs there. Give that a good clean around there. If you've got access to compressed air, that's probably a good time to use it. You could buy the little spray cans, as I say, and also clean around this area with your brush like that. And for the bobbin case here, slide back the plate there and remove the bobbin, just like so, and I'd remove the presser foot, just push down on the front, remove the presser foot. The plate is magnetically held in there, so just simply lift that away, and then you go ahead and remove the bobbin case. I've done a video on removing and reinstalling the bobbin case, so I won't dwell on this for too long, but suffice it to say that you lift this little lever here and push this black lever out of the way, rotate the bobbin slightly to the right or anti-clockwise, and remove the bobbin case, and oil, just a drop of oil on there, and also oil here, and there's a little hole in behind here on the 726, just there. And get your brush in here and give it a little clean. Again, compressed air is quite handy for this. Give it just a general clean. Any lint you can see, just get rid of it. The other difference I noticed is that 726 doesn't have the soft touch feed dogs, the rubber coated feed dogs. They've actually got the metal toothed type. So there's another little difference between the models. So get in there and give that a good clean. That looks pretty good. As I say, I use compressed air when I'm servicing machines. And then reinstall your bobbin case. Set it in so that the latch is off center there. It's so the bobbin case is turned to the anti-clockwise direction, to the right. So you just push it to the left like that, or clockwise, until it stops. It comes up against a little stopper here, and then you can just flick this lever back, and there you go. So that's that part done, and then you can reinstall your bobbin like so. Plate back on, close that, and reinstall the presser foot there. Just line up the shaft with the little cutout and the shank there, lower the presser foot onto it, and when you push down on the mounting screw for the foot shank, it should click into place, and when you lift the presser bar, the foot should stay attached. If this area doesn't need cleaning, you can actually oil this bobbin case while it's in position. Just a little drop of oil where the bobbin case meets the hook there. Just one little dab of oil, like that. So I'm just following along with the manual here for the lubrication behind the faceplate here. So we'll get in a little bit closer to these parts. So these parts are near the top of the machine, and you can see that you know, moving parts generally are what you want to oil, but there's 2 points here for the lateral movement of the needle bar, and the needle bar itself, top bearing there. There's some linkages for the take-up lever in here, in fact, but what I'll do is I'll get the top cover off. It might be a little bit easier to see, but you can lubricate those without taking the top cover off. And if we have a look down a little bit further here, we've got the lower needle bar bearing, the lower presser foot shaft bearing. I'll go ahead and take the top cover off just to get access into those take-up linkages. And to get the top cover off, it's just one screw. It says in the manual you can take these screws off with a coin. The slot in it's wide enough for a small coin. Like that, and then you lift the right hand side, actually open the faceplate, lift slightly and push to the left, and it should just slide off. So now we can get better access to the linkages here, the take-up linkages, and this faceplate cover can be removed just by lifting it, and it just slides off two of the little hinges there. Now in the manual it shows this linkage as being a metal linkage, but that's not metal on this one. and I suspect that you don't need to lubricate this bearing or this one. And you might also notice a little bit of lint in here as well. You can get in there. Sorry about the light, it's hard to get into these nooks and crannies, but you know, while you're in there you might as well clean that. And so now we can get access to some of these linkages. You might want to turn the machine, this one here, that one there, and this one down here, this linkage here, and this area here. There's a oil point here. We have a look down here, there's a point that you should oil here, this area here, and one back here as well. That's the touch selector dial there, needs lubricating. And when you change stitches you can see this bearing here slides up and down the shaft here. A little bit of oil on there. Let's work that in. And that's working part there. It's getting a little bit difficult to see here too with some of these darker parts, but oil there. Just on this little shaft here and behind that spring. We want to get a bit into here. And that's where I suspect if machines haven't been maintained very well, if there's no oil being put into this area here, that might cause this whole mechanism to seize up and strain and break those cam stack gears. The video I've done on the buyer's guide shows you what can happen with the cam stack gear. So a bit of oil there, grease here, and also grease on these meshing gears here. And don't forget this oil hole in the front of the machine here, give that a drop of oil there. Interestingly, in the manual for the 766 it mentions if your machine has white gears, they're made of material which should not be lubricated. Now this being the 726, I'm wondering whether the material has changed since the 726 came out, or whether they just decided that you don't need to lubricate them. I'm not sure. Now we need to access the bottom of the machine, so tip it back here. Okay, remove this cover here first. Unscrew. And then go ahead and remove the bottom cover of the free arm. Or Singer calls it a tubular bed. I've always called them free arms, but here we go. So they suggest lubricating these two gears here with grease. Yeah, they're suggesting oiling here as well. That part is part of the mechanism for the bobbin winder. If that bobbin winder button or lever there is difficult to turn, then this would be the ideal place to lubricate it. Just in behind here you can see a shaft going up into a bush there. Oil here and there. I would also get to that one there. Oil that and oil this slide here. Oil this bearing. I would also be getting a little bit of oil down onto that shaft there just to get into this bearing in here for the reversing mechanism. Bit of oil there, maybe both sides, why not? Now we're coming across to the right hand side a little bit further. You've got this feed bar linkage, little hole here, oil there, and oil this side of the bearing, maybe both sides. And again, lubricant grease on these meshing gears here. So as far as lubrication goes for this model, that's it, all done. Put everything back together here. We'll start with this cover here. And it would be, yeah, again, probably before you oil actually is, you know, clean in here with your brush, get any lint and whatnot out of there. This is going to be the area where the lint builds up. And then let's put that cover back on. And this cover here. Now I've got a feeling this is a 1969 machine, 50 something years old. Yeah, manual, it says trademark, copyright 1969. I'm assuming that's when the machine was made. So I think they were late 60s, early 70s manufacture of these machines. Tip the machine back up again. I'll reinstall the faceplate. Can be a little bit tricky to line up, but it's just a matter of getting both this pin and that pin lined up in the holes here. And it should just drop in. Should, he says. Yep, just like that. Now the top covers can be a little tricky. If we have a look here, there's a little clip. That little spring goes over here, but you can't put the top cover on and then just push it sideways. It doesn't quite clip under. You kind of have to have one end up, get that clip started. It's a bit fiddly, especially from this angle. There's that little spring clip started there, and then just push the top cover to the right until this screw hole lines up. Like that. That's all set there. Done. Close up, and that one's done. The 766 talks about removing lint here, so again removing the plate, removing the bobbin case, similar to the 726, lubrication in behind the faceplate there, and so it says here once or twice every year under normal conditions lubricate all moving parts. First remove lint and fluff. Yeah, so remove lint and fluff from, you know, these areas. This is a flatbed model, that's the free arm model. You know, remove lint and fluff, you get a lot of it down this end here. Just looking at the underneath of the machine. Removing and replacing the top cover, changing the light bulb, and replacing the slide plates. You know, all they really talk about is oil here and behind the faceplate and the bobbin case. You know, like the 726, they had a lot of oil points up in here. So that's interesting. And in fact the I don't have the manual for the 760, but interestingly enough, they show you this part here and, you know, how to keep things clean. But there are no references to oiling, and in fact they say in the manual there that your machine requires no lubrication under normal circumstances. So it looks like the 760, maybe they improved the bearings and they don't need lubrication by the user, I guess. I'm wondering whether maybe, you know, at the time they were suggesting that you take your machine to the service agent probably more often and get them to do the lubrication. So as for the 760, you've got this demonstration here on how to remove the bobbin case. I won't go through it on the machine because it's very similar to what we've just done. Removing the bobbin case, replacing the bobbin case, maintenance. It really just talks about cleaning the lower bobbin case area. So this area here, cleaning like we did in the last little section. Same as the 726, just clean all this. Your machine requires no lubrication. So I'm assuming that, you know, if you wanted to Well, yeah, I don't know really whether I would follow that recommendation. I mean, if you want to be 100% safe about it, take it to a service agent and get them to do it. I would be tempted to oil the working parts. Also, yeah, I would definitely oil here on the 760. This almost looks like an oil spot to me rather than a screw hole. That looks like a screw hole, but this looks like an oil spot. But you know, what's it going to hurt if you put some oil into there? I mean, if it is a screw hole, there's no harm in putting oil in it. I don't see a problem with that. Just while I was looking at oiling the 760, I noticed that the colour of this metal here is different. And whether that's by design or some sort of environmental cause, I don't know. But I wonder if that's why they say that you don't necessarily need to oil this model, whether they've changed the type of material that they use here. But anyway, I still would be, you know, tempted to get a little bit of oil into some of these places. The machine seems to be running relatively smoothly apart from that noise at top speed. So I'll just go through and oil this machine as I would normally. And that's another difference with the 760 is it has a built-in needle threader behind the plate here, behind the faceplate. I'm not sure if that one still works. I'll check that out later. And there's also a automatic buttonhole feature on this model. So the 760 looks like the one to have, I would say, with the automatic buttonholing. You've got your needle threader, you know, drop-in style cams, flexi stitch. Yeah, so when I say the one to have, I mean the one to have out of the models that I have, the 4 different models. I would say this would be the pick of the bunch for versatility. I've gone along and oiled all the bits and pieces in the top here. This one's a little bit noisy. Oh, just a warning too if you're wearing headphones. At high speed. At low speeds it actually sounds not too bad. But if I go fast, it's a little bit rattly. I'm not exactly sure where that rattle's coming from, but I suspect it may be the motor belt. So let's get in and have a wee look at this motor area and see whether that noise is caused by the belt tension. Sounds similar to the problem I was having with a 766 that I serviced, and the motor mounts were actually failing on that one, and it was causing the belt tension to be very loose. And yeah, I can see just by the fact that I can move this motor, that is suggesting that one of the mounts or the adjuster is gone. I've got the parts for that, so I'll go ahead and replace that. I've done a video on replacing the motor mounts on these, but that'll be why it's noisy. And if we have a look under here, looking fairly clean in here. I would say, just going to have a close look at this. It looks to me like, you know, that bearing there, that looks like it's been dry, and it's not looking, you know, it's just looking like it's been a little bit worn. So yeah, I'd be tempted to take it with a grain of salt, that comment in the manual about not lubricating your machine for this model, the 760. This is the bobbin winder engaging mechanism, and I can see there that a little bit of cracking going on here, so I don't know how long that's going to last for. So, but yeah, I'd be tempted to put some oil there on that shaft and oil there. I'll go through and oil this the same way I did the 726. And part of the reason I wanted to service this machine is because it's the one I want to use for the demonstrations that I'm going to do with the different attachments and functions and whatnot. So I'll get the motor mounts done there. I've just realised that while I was doing the motor mounts on this 760 that in my videos explaining how to replace these mounts I actually disconnect the cable and I pull the motor right out. There's no need to actually do that. I think you can do this without unplugging the cable. So that saves a bit of hassle. You just place the hinge bushes in like so. Okay, that's the motor hinge mounts replaced and the belt all tensioned up. So let's see what it sounds like now. Headphone warning, by the way. This could get a little noisy. A lot smoother. Sounded pretty good there. So I'll put this machine back together and this will be the one that I'll use to demonstrate some more advanced features. So I hope you enjoyed that little rundown on the mechanical side of things, and I thank you very much for watching.